Hello, everybody. This is Quinn Curtis, and you're listening to Joyful Living. And it is so awesome to be here with you today. We have a really special guest that I'm so excited to introduce you to. And her name is Sabrina Must, and she is fabulous. And I think it's going to be such a really juicy, really deep dive conversation into what it actually means to live joyfully, especially with some of the major pieces that Sabrina has firsthand experience with, especially with grief and lots of other things that she's walked through in her life. So I think that this is going to be really fun, and we're just so happy to have you here, Sabrina. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. It's always nice to do a podcast, a nice experience. We're going to get little bits of my dog's grunting during it, so if anyone hears that, that's what it is.
Well, and you better introduce your dog as well, since he'll be joining us.
This is Monkey, and she's trying to convince me to play with her sock. So we're going to try to ignore that.
That is so cute. She is darling. So if you're not watching the video, you might want to check it out on YouTube just so you can see Sabrina's cute dog.
She's a little dog.
So cute. So cute.
Well, yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So.
Oh, absolutely. Well, before we get diving into our conversation, I want to give you, the audience, a little bit of a preview of Sabrina and what she's all about. So let me share a little bit about her. She is a graduate of Johns Hopkins and Northwestern University. She uses the written word to inspire others to be authentic and raw. She's the author of Must Girls Love, a memoir, and the Living Witnesses Holocaust Survivor series. In addition to her creative work, she founded Write Less Bad, an educating writing service for businesses to perfect their written communication. She's lived on 3 continents, in 5 U.S. cities, traveled to over 30 countries, and can always be playing sports, surfing, and biking around town with her pug, Monkey, who we just met, which is such a fun connection there.
Yeah.
So fun to have you here. So the big question I always ask all of our special guests that I love exploring is, what does joyful living look and feel like to you? What's your flavor? And just a preface for this, if this is your first time listening to the show, the reason why we ask this question is really to just affirm that joyful living looks different to all of us, and that it's this whole societal belief that happiness is found in this one little box or in this one little thing that can get us in so much trouble, or into believing, well, once I lost those 30 pounds, I was finally happy, or once I got $1 million, then I was finally happy. And so we love exploring everybody's flavor of joyful living. It's so inspiring. So tell us a little bit about, what does Sabrina Must's flavor of joyful living taste like, feel like, and look like?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great point, that, people can kind of attach themselves to, if I lose 10 pounds, then I'll look this way and I'll be happy and I'll meet this person and I'll be able to do all these fun things. And it's so much more about, doing things that you love and connecting with people in certain ways that really fuel you. For me, it's always been sports and being active and being outside. That was a lot of the intention, and I live in California now, and it's going to yoga, it's going surfing, it's playing volleyball, it's biking around town, like you referenced in my bio. It's doing every little thing that I can breathe hard and sweat, and it brings me a lot of joy, where I think many people struggle with getting themselves active and they feel like it's a job. For me, it's just fun. I've always been wired that way. So if I, setting up a lifestyle that is very much focused on, how can I be as active as possible? How can I make my own schedule and allow me to be active, and then turn around once I've kind of like quieted my head and moved my body, that I can write and be creative in that way. That's what brings me most joy. It's taken me years to figure that out. Not necessarily the moving active part of it, but this is what I want. It's not, what I do is not a traditional career. I don't have that 9 to 5. I didn't go to law school if my dad wanted me to do, which are all okay things.
Yeah.
If it works for you. And this is what works for me. And so, I'm trying to pursue things that are that are aligning with, it goes back to intention. Like, what's my intention? I just want to be as happy as I possibly can and feel as good as I possibly can. And these are the things that kind of bring me closer to that, or at least have brought me to there. And it's always can be better, right? You can always like even more joyful, and that's pretty good. So, I can only imagine just adding more and more to it.
Oh, yeah. I love that. And especially where you're bringing up, like, it's so fascinating to me with these conversations about joyful living, because I feel like so often as we're saying it, or even as you guys are listening, as you're hearing it, there's so much of it that you're like, oh yeah, I know that already. Or, oh yeah, of course, that's obvious. But what I find is the only reason we're having that response is when it's true things. Like, if it's true, the reason why it feels like, well, yeah, of course, or, oh, that's that simple, it's because it's true, So I loved all this truth that you were sharing just about, like, being active and having fun and, like, play. Like, I think that there are definitely some of you listening that will be like, now, wait a minute, is there a limit though, Sabrina? Like, is there too much fun, or is there, like, life isn't fun, Like, we get programmed with these beliefs.
I sometimes, I felt like if work is slow one week, or if I, have an article denied by a publication, or if, an agent denies my manuscript, and then you start going into that negative, oh, well, maybe it's not supposed to be all fun. Maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. Maybe, life isn't supposed to, I mean, I hear that most often. So many people. I'm single, so I hear it a lot of time. Oftentimes when I'm, on dates or with men, I hear this, well, I don't enjoy my job, but I do it so I can do everything else. And I'm like, yeah, but that's how you spend so much of your time. Like, you should be doing something that excites you.
Yeah.
And figuring out how can you make that work financially, just energetically, and every capacity. But it's hard sometimes. You definitely get pushback from people, like I sit outside, the shades are kind of half closed right now, but I do work almost all the time outside by my pool. As long as I have Wi-Fi, I can work. And I think a lot of my neighbors are like, what the hell does she do all day?
She's out there.
I'm just like out sun tanning and letting my dog run wild. But I know me, if I'm locked up in like a dark room, my whole, like, I get kind of depressed, like my energy drops. And if I'm outside in the sunshine, it's just like everything feels good. But it's hard. It's it's like you're constantly fighting with like traditional expectations of what society pressures us to do, for sure.
Absolutely. And just pointing out to the listeners, like, you'll hear with everything that Sabrina was just saying, she's like, I know when I'm like this, then it leads to me feeling this way, right? This is a major part of living joyfully, is just getting really conscious and aware of what works for you and what doesn't, and what lights you up and what doesn't. And I think so many of us were raised in situations where we maybe didn't feel as free to have choice in that area, or to even have awareness that it was just like, nope, this is just how life is. Stop expecting so much from life, right? Like, life is hard. Get used to it,
And this is not to say that life can't be hard. Like,
oh, of course.
You lose people, and you lose jobs, and you lose this, and you lose friends, and there's struggle in any kind of relationship. I mean, that's reality, but it's how can you teach yourself to be doing things that bring you joy, so that when things are hard, it might not hit you as intensely. You still feel like you can center yourself. I just wrote, talking about my blog, I just wrote this blog piece. I released it on Tuesday called, I think the title is like Food as Fuel. And the idea that we're taught that, as children especially, that, this is what nutrition is. And it's oftentimes very backwards in Western culture.
Yeah.
Just as an adult, taking ownership of your body, same way that like taking ownership of like how you want to live your life, just in terms of career and friends and everything else, and play, that, what works for you. So maybe what you could eat for dinner, and that feels great for you, is completely opposite of what works for my body, and everyone is different, and it's about
Yeah.
self-exploration and being okay with that, embracing that as like, yeah, this is great, that you do you and I'm going to do me. And supporting each other on those journeys. That's, it's like, how can you how can you surround yourself with people that really like push for that? I want you to figure out
Mhm.
what works for you. I want you to pursue something that works for you. um, it's huge. It's just, I definitely don't want to be 50 years old and turn around and go, damn it, I should have done that, which I'll still do about certain things for sure, but
Right.
even on like a large scope. I don't,
Mhm.
I don't want to realize I was in a cubicle doing kind of like a mindless job for 15 years and then regret it. So
Yeah. And you bring up such an interesting point with that there's always going to be those, you phrased it so well, like the society's expectations of us, right? And even just thinking back, I thought that was so hilarious what you said about being out by the pool and your neighbor's like, I don't know what she's doing all day, Like, I actually feel like this is a major reason why we play small and we don't really actually take those risks because of that societal pressure. And I'm sure you would agree. But like also just bringing that into with finding what works for us.
yeah,
I loved how you were bringing in the point of like, hey, let's find out what works for you too. And like, I can be cool with what works for you and you can be cool with what works for me. It requires us to be in a space of acceptance and tolerance, which I think are, once we have those pieces in place, then it allows all of us to find our joy. And it is women, this can be really tricky, especially, right? Because there's so much of the comparison and like crabs in a bucket, right? Trying to pull each other down.
yep.
So anyways, I just have a lot of thoughts there. If there's more you'd like to add, love
Yeah,
to.
no, I know this girl from the climbing gym who just started maybe like 3 months back. She was a contractor at a major corporation in San Diego, and then they took her on as a full-time employee. And she could not have been more excited to have that cubicle life and the structure and the organization. And she
Mm.
always has to be there. And this is what, I get a paycheck and this is what I do. And on the flip side, I remember like kind of laughing about it with her, like, that would kill me. Like, I would not want to do that. That is just not me. And it's just very interesting how, it is. It's about, instead of knocking each other down, supporting something that works for someone else and being okay with that. And, I mean, it can be simple as, you know, I'm going to wear this and this is you, and you're going to wear that and that's your style. Awesome. Go for it.
Mm.
And not like take out the judgment of it. I think a lot of the reason that people feel stifled in terms of pursuing something they really are passionate about is the fear of judgment. You know, and failure a lot of times, like you said, like taking that big risk is really hard. Um,
Yeah.
Sometimes you just kind of have to do it, and if you fail, like then you fail, and then you move on. You figure out, not that like it's easy to just be like, oh, whatever. It's not, but it's pretty.
Yeah. So true. And I know one of the things that you're really, really passionate about is everybody being able to own their own story and tell it. And I think that all the reasons we were just talking about of why we don't choose our joy, they're the same reasons why we resist this piece. So I'd love to hear your insights on why does this matter, right? Why is it so important to be able to tell your story or, even go there?
Yeah, so with all my writing, with all my creative stuff, I should say, because when I'm working with businesses, like that's, I almost like take on their voice and their message, and it's like very separate in my mind. It's almost like two different worlds. But when I'm working creatively on a book or especially on my blog, it's, you know, I share, my mom could probably say almost too much,
Yeah.
share really honest stuff. And it's like, hey, this is me. This is what I'm going through. If I'm going through this, I know other people are going through this. And
Mm-hmm.
my intention in that is, if I'm really, really open, I hope that a reader goes, you know what? I relate to that and I get that. And so if she was open like that, and it's really scary to be open and, you know, show something or share something that's maybe shameful or fearful or whatever it is, then maybe I can be more open to and honest. And the residual effect of that is when I'm more honest with myself, I'm more honest with others, and then I connect deeper. And it becomes this like domino effect of like, yeah, just like everyone, I wanna be around people that support me. And it's very hard to do, it can be very lonely sometimes, and you get a lot of pushback at times when you're really honest. And I hear a lot, whether it's in my writing or personal dynamic or dating, especially, like, you can't say that, Sabrina. Well, I just did. Like, I just did, and I want to know how you feel about that. And if that pushed your button, like, let's explore that. And instead of ignoring me, engage me and help me understand how you're thinking so that I can grow. It's just so interconnected. It's not, like, being honest. My dog is so loud. Being honest is not, it's in a way, it's almost a selfless thing. That's how I see it. Because it's allowing other people to grow and to be more honest as well. And I just think it's a really powerful thing to share your story and to make people not feel so alone. Whether it's something really silly, like a dating story and just laughing about how, like, ridiculous that whole experience is, or
yes,
or sharing about, one of the things I write about often is losing my sister to suicide, and it's very unspoken. And people in terms of, like, society as a whole, people don't talk about that stuff. I just wrote a poem last week. I was just up late at night, and I don't know why. I had read something, and it's like, I've written about when I got the call, but I never really gave details, and it was just never something I really dove into for some reason. And it was just, like, eaten up on, like, Facebook and my blog and Instagram, and so many people were connecting with it.
Wow.
Because it's like, yeah, this is what really happens. Like, and especially on social media, all everyone sees are, like, people smiling and having fun and traveling and good stuff. And it's like, there's some really shitty things that go on. And how can we be open about that and then support one another? That's in my mind, that helps that intention of, like, how can I live more joyfully? How can I, if I'm more open, then I feel more free. You had referenced, that freedom to kind of self-express or explore paths. So
I love it. I'm just taking some notes. So good. In fact, I was actually just going to ask if you wanted to share a little bit more about your story right before you mentioned with your sister. Would you mind sharing a little bit more and kind of how that transition worked? Because that's something that's so traumatic, like that you were referring to, and then kind of what your processes looked like into really stepping into joy, even with that happening, right?
Yeah. So I'm 31 years old now. My sister committed suicide when it was like 3 weeks before I turned 22. So I was 21 at the time. Really just out of the blue. She was suffering. Her husband at the time had asked for a divorce, and there was just a lot of, like, verbal abuse and just a lot of discontent in that relationship. But I never considered suicide an option, so it was very shocking for me. I was extremely close with her. She was my oldest sister. We're all 2 years. There's 4 girls in my family, and we're all 2 years apart. And so I started writing as kind of, a form of, grief therapy for myself, like journaling and whatnot. And that just slowly kind of snowballed into turning into Must Girls Love, into my first book. And it was wonderful. Very, very hard. I mean, I pretty much just cried, I feel like, for 2 years straight. It's, you're constantly digging really deep and reliving experiences over and over and over and over. And instead of just, like, pushing into a closet, I was walking in every day.
Wow.
Had I not done that, I probably would have had to grieve her death now. And so I just kind of wanted to get the grief over with as quickly as possible. And a lot of the ways that I live now and what my intention is and why I write and why I'm trying to grow my blog is because I never want to feel that way again. I was so down. And just honestly, it surprises me that I didn't kill myself that first year. That was how just
Wow.
total disaster.
Mm.
But that kind of it was like little step by step over writing that, and then starting to work on the Living Witnesses Survivor series that you had referenced in my bio.
Yeah.
Photographer. And again, it goes to people sharing and being open, and we ended up working with about 400 international survivors, sharing their story, being really welcoming us into something that most of them had never talked about, even with their children. And really, really painful experiences. But as you could feel it as soon as they got it out. I mean, whether I was talking and interviewing them directly, or my mom and her assistant had voice recorded it and then shared the voice recording with me, and I got to transcribe the interviews. It was there was a sense of freedom, almost a release. And we shared those stories. Again, it's all with the intention of how can a reader read this, connect with it in some way, whether it's a small detail, or they're similar and their story is very aligned, and then feel like they have permission to open up themselves. And then once you're more honest, you naturally let go of certain things, and you welcome people in ways that you didn't necessarily connect. Imagine going into a room with strangers, and you're all sitting in a circle, and if one by one each person is almost forced to share their story and look in everyone's eyes, all of a sudden by the end of the circle, after everyone's gone through, you understand people, and it's all about human connection, and how can we connect, and how can we love each other more. But yeah, it was a tough go, and it's 9-10 years later, and I don't regret a thing. It's really it's helped me become who I am now. So in many ways, I'm thankful for it, which is kind of an odd thing to say, but
No, I love that. Just processing through that, you said so many fabulous nuggets that I'm just savoring myself. I was taking notes, and especially fascinating about the Holocaust survivors. That one blows my mind, and I love what you're describing of once they even shared their story, it set them free in a way. It sounded like from what you were saying, and even fascinating that they hadn't told their kids. But I look around, as a mom of 5. My kids don't know my stories, really. They really don't, and I don't know my mom's necessarily, or my parents. So it feels like once you're a grandparent, then you finally time to tell the story. But I love how you're sharing how, this is how real connection happens. And it's important for us to share our stories for us, but it's also important because it liberates everybody in our lives.
For sure. And again, it goes back to just the way that we're taught. Don't cry, don't show emotion. A lot of these survivors, they moved here. It's a new life. I need to be strong for my kids, and strength comes from no tears, from not showing weakness, from not being upset and not being hurt. And so we stuff those emotions and those stories down, and just like what you said, you have 5 kids, and they don't know your story, and most people don't share the stories of hurt, and that's what the realness, that's what really makes up someone. And putting it out there it's just so important. And I'm constantly kind of coming up against, a lot of people get it, a lot of readers get it, a lot of kind of people that follow my blog and my books and whatnot. And then there's definitely a few that I'm like, whoa, I don't, that's too much, Sabrina.
Too
It's like,
far.
this is what happened. So if this is what's happening, if this is what happened to Holocaust survivors, this is what happened to you. If it's someone that, instead of hiding the fact that a woman was raped, if she has the power to talk about it and giving the space to talk about it, it becomes not so shameful.
Mm.
And it just, everything kind of spirals from there. I just think that, spoken word, written word, being open, being honest nothing can replace that. It's just so important.
Mm.
I've kind of like devoted my life to like, how can I make that my message? It's really important to me. So.
Wow. Wow. And I was just thinking of a little nuance. I think a lot of people resist telling their stories because even just how you were saying, like, well, this was just what happened, right? Especially in some of these painful ones, you start to worry about, well, what was everybody else's experience of what happened? And what if I tell the story wrong? But recognizing, no, if it was, your story is whatever it looked like to you. It's however you experienced it, right?
It's like grief, right? There's no right or wrong way to grieve. I mean, yes, you could say, oh, shit, I'm, doing drugs now and becoming an alcoholic. And yeah, that's not a great way necessarily, and a healthy way for you. But if that's part of your journey to deal with those emotions and then eventually get back to a place where you're more centered, who am I to say that's not okay?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of judging it, it's more like, how can I support you to become healthier and to be more honest and really look at what's going on? How can you go back to figuring out those things that make you tick and that really excite you, instead of, something that's just self-destructive.
Yeah. Oh, so many good thoughts in there. I'm just loving this conversation so much. I was thinking about maybe the bridge as far as, and maybe a lot of this has kind of been, assumed, but like, what's the bridge here between how you tell your story, you share your story, and that helps make you be more open, and which sets you free. And then let's bring it into like, how does that look? What does that look like in like daily joyful living? Like, how can we connect that more into joy?
Yeah, a lot of it for me is, if I'm doing something that makes me feel excited, like if I'm excited to get up in the morning and I know, okay, I'm going to talk on an interview, a podcast interview today. I'm going to hop on a call with a client for my Right Less Bad business and help with some content stuff. And I get to work on a blog post, and then I'll, organize a couple other meetings. If that's work, sprinkled with, all right, I got to go to hot yoga. I'm going to bike my dog around. If I get to connect with a girlfriend or two and, and tell her what's really going on. Do I feel down today? Am I happy today? Am I, what's like really going on, as opposed to like, hey, how are you? I'm good. Okay, see you later.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all the small little things, all the small habits that we do that lead to eventually getting there where you do feel more joyful. And that it becomes an ideal of like, oh, it's too hard to do that. Yeah, like what you said, all those little things, yeah, they're obvious. When someone says, exercise, eat well and sleep and do work that you love. Like, yeah, okay, obviously, right? That's what everyone says.
Yeah.
But it's really simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's not simple, and it's not hard. It's not that it's not difficult to do that, or it's not difficult to self-explore, but those are really simple things. Like, choice. It's, instead of eating like crap, I'm going to eat something that really fuels me. Instead of, going out till 2 a.m., I'm going to come home and go to sleep at 10 a.m. so I can have energy for the next day. Or, little things. And that what we're doing, and the kind of work that we're doing, the work, when I say, what people pay us to do, and the reality is, you need money to survive. That's just how society works.
Yeah.
So, there's just so much involved in that, but when it really comes down to it, it really all is just really simple. We just complicate it, and it's figuring out what works for us and what doesn't work for us, and surrounding ourselves with people that support us. I if I only, I completely adore my dad, but if I was just my dad's daughter, right?
Yeah.
I would not feel that I have permission to explore creative paths and paths that I feel are, allowing me to play while I work.
Yeah.
Because I'm my mother's daughter, she essentially gives me that permission, you're doing great, keep going, like this is, like explore it, try it.
Yeah.
Even if you fail, like everything will work out. And it's really powerful to have those people in your life that push you to be a little bit, non-traditional. And but it's very tough. It's very tough. It's, you get a lot of kickback from people, and again, it always just goes back to like what makes me happy.
I love it.
It's always, what it is going here tonight going to make me happy, or is going here tonight going to make me happier? All right, that's going to be my choice. Done. And sometimes I choose wrong, and sometimes I choose right, and I learn from it, and then the next time I'm a little bit wiser. So.
I love it. So, so, so good. I would love to hear a little bit more also. Just you're right about the beauty in growing and challenging yourself. I think that's such a great way to frame that. Is that enough information for you to riff on? But I'd love to hear just more, like, what does that mean to you? What does that look like to you? I think it's gorgeous. I mean, you're a writer, so we love your words, but like, beautiful.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm speaking, I even like hear it, like, that's why I'm a writer. I organize, my thoughts are kind of all over the place, and then when I write, they become very organized and very clear. But, I can speak, and I mean, this is like, as corny as it is, like, this is my truth. So even if it's kind of like word vomit, I mean, this is very much like what's going on in my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, I think about each time that I've moved, and it's not necessarily easy. The choice is easy, but the decision, the action is hard. So just over a year ago, I was living in Austin for about 3 years. I moved there really spontaneously, kind of just chose it. I'd never been to Texas before. Moved from Chicago, just flew down, had my car shipped down, and just kind of went for it. And it was
so fun.
It was a great experience. Amazing 3 years. I, had a really loving, relationship. I'd started working as a boot camp instructor and loved that, and learned a lot about that. Also what I didn't want necessarily in work. Created a great community. And then I just felt this push. I had been putting off California for years. And I've always wanted to not just visit the ocean, but really live by the ocean and learn to surf. And I was kind of up for that new challenge. And so the decision, making that jump, it's very scary at times. It's, I'm moving somewhere where, yeah, I know of a couple people went to my high school. They were older, but I've seen them once, maybe twice since moving here. I'm moving somewhere I really don't know anyone. You're starting fresh, and in many ways it goes back to, like, it's very freeing, but it's also, shit, what did I do?
Yeah.
I miss that comfort, and forcing yourself into challenge, into something that's unknown. It creates a new level of comfort. It forces me to grow and become more aware of, like, well, what are my habits? So when I move somewhere, I mean, I can be very spontaneous in many ways, yet very predictable in others. I know I'm going to find a yoga studio, because this is what I've learned about myself, what makes me happy, right? I'm going to find a hot yoga studio. I'm going to find a coffee shop I love that I go and do writing at. I'm going to, go to this kind of event that I can meet people that, will maybe bike around town or play volleyball with me, or, I'm going to go to the network. Like there's certain things that even if I'm in a different city, I still latch onto. And then because I'm in a new city, it forces me to open up to new ways that I wouldn't have considered the previous place that I lived. And it's and then just as like the effect is for my writing, it creates a lot of new creativity. So new experiences, new things to write about, new perspective, and I love that. Sometimes you do. I was just on the phone with someone I know from high school. He was a couple of years older than I, but friends with my sisters, my older sisters. And it's funny because literally, like, I lived in Chicago. He lived in Chicago. I lived in Chicago. I moved to Austin 2 months later. He moved to Austin. He moved all around. Now he's out, an hour and a half north of me.
What?
We were, he was like, he just had a baby, and he and his wife live, like up in Laguna. And he was saying to me, have you explored these beaches? There's all these caves. And I thought to myself, I've explored a lot of San Diego. And I've learned all these new, like how to surf and climbing this year and all these different things. But I still get stuck in my own comfort. I really don't like driving past like an hour, maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Going out of my way to go and do new things, to explore new ways that can bring me more joy instead of the mundane, the schedule. What is my typical, on Saturday, I'll go to hot yoga. I'll go play volleyball. I'll surf. I'll do some work. It's very predictable, but in that predictability, the comfort kind of like it becomes, like it doesn't allow for new creativity, for connecting with new people to share my truth, and that's really important. I think that's that goes back to how can you challenge yourself on a daily basis. And sometimes those challenges are big, like moving to new cities or countries or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're really small, like, hey, instead of going to my usual Sunday yoga class, I'm going to go and try out this other workout and maybe meet people around town, that kind of thing.
I love it. Oh, so good and so powerful. I wanted to give you a little bit of an opportunity as we're drawing this to an end. I can't believe how fast that time went. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about where people can find you and some of the cool things that they can connect with on your website. And then also I have some rapid fire questions afterwards, which I'm excited to ask you. It's always one of my favorite parts of these. So share us a little bit, or share with us a little bit about you and how to connect.
Yeah, so almost everything is on my website, sabrinamust.com. SABRINAMUST. People think that my last name is made up. It's my real last name. There's links to, you can check out my books. The Must Girls Love is on Amazon, or you can get it on Kindle. That's the easiest way to do that. Links to all my recent blog posts, and then a whole page you can scroll through. I mean, it's hundreds of blog posts. Maybe too much, maybe more than you want to know about me than you really wanted to. Links to Instagram, following me on Instagram with like funky photos and probably some that are a little bit too scandalous. Links to my Facebook writer page. I post all my new blog posts there and share a little funny, like blurbs and statuses and whatnot, just stupid stuff that I find funny, making little jokes. And so that's kind of, that's how the best way to kind of follow along. I have a couple, in a few weeks, I'll be speaking to all the sororities at SCSU about, the pursuit of passion. And especially it's so important in the college setting where they're trying to figure out their career paths, and a lot of them are going to be graduating soon. And
wow, yeah.
How do I fit into this little, like, this box that I'm expected to, or, does that work for me, or does pursuing something else, is traveling more important, trying to give them information to figure out what works for them again. And then this coming November, I'm going to be speaking at a suicide prevention conference back in Michigan, and there'll be some events here and there scattered around, looking to get more into hosting workshops and speaking at conferences about whether it's about entrepreneurialism or, dealing with grief or becoming an author or whatever it is, living joyfully. So that's kind of, but it's all, almost always on my website.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you ready for the rapid fire round?
My association with this is I once watched this video, and it might have been from like Vogue or I don't even know what, but it was Emma Stone, right? That's the actress. They like ask her like all these questions, and I really enjoyed all her like ridiculous answers. So that was my association, was like, oh, I get to like answer just like all the random stuff that would pop in my head. Okay.
Yes. Random is welcome. I love it. Okay. So this is just first things that come to your mind, right? And I know you've mentioned a few throughout the episode, but like, don't let that hold you back. So, okay. So we're looking for where do you find joy with friends? Like what kind of things do you love to do with them?
Playing volleyball, watching the sunset on the beach. I wish they would bike around with me more often. And stopping into random bars to people watch and joke around and play Wing Woman. I love playing Wing Woman.
What is Wing Woman?
Like I go to a bar and I'm with my like neighbors that are single, or my teammate on Friday she's gay and I'm going to some gay bar to like hook her up with some girls.
Yeah.
I get really shy if I am attracted to someone or I'm interested. Yeah. But when I'm like setting someone else up, I have no shame. So I will just like go up and be like, hey, you're cute. Come over here, meet my friend. Really fun to me. That brings me a lot of joy, actually.
This sounds so fun. Yes. Next, like scary group thing you go to, you want Sabrina as your wingman.
I truly like if it has nothing to do with me, like if I'm not the one, I get really, that's the only situation that I get really embarrassed in if I'm actually interested in a guy. But otherwise, it's just like you win. Like I will make it happen.
I love it. Okay, so good. How about joy with your family?
Family dinners. I'm so far away from them. My whole family lives in Michigan, but one sister lives in New York with her family and her kids. And I, growing up, we always did, I'm a Jew, so like, during like Jewish holidays and, Sunday dinners and barbecues, and my mom makes a huge spread, and we just have, it's not just our family, like my like immediate family, it's my mom's best friends and my dad's best friends. And everyone together is really enjoyable and something that I miss. I living so far away from everyone.
I love it. Okay, how about joy with Monkey, your dog?
Biking her around. She runs while I bike.
Wow.
Literally, truly, like one of the most athletic dogs I've ever met. I can't tire the dog out. Biking or roller skating. She loves when I roller skate her. She like pulls me on my skates most of the time.
My gosh. And she's a tiny dog if you're not watching the video. That is amazing.
10, 11 pounds. She's a mighty little pug though. She's not a chubby pug by any means. So
no. Oh my gosh.
They're like rolling on the couch trying to entice me to play for an
Let's
hour.
go. Okay, how about joy with yourself, like alone time?
Honestly, anything that when the sun is out, I've really this past year fallen in love with surfing, and I feel like high on the waves. Just getting out there and feeling the sun on my skin, and the water's freezing cold, and just when I'm on a wave, and I feel like I'm not paying attention to anything. Like it's just me, and it's just the wave, it's just my board, and anything that's stressing me out is just like, it's just kind of like, washed away.
Wow. Oh, I love that. How about, and this is the final question, joy with the divine?
Divine for me is, even though I was brought up Jewish, I'm not religious in a traditional sense, really. My culture, you could kind of say.
Yeah.
But I've lost so many people, like my sister and my grandfathers and my great aunt and uncles I was very close to, and my mom lost her sister when she was younger, and that to me is divine in terms of the like spirit world kind of being around me and watching over me. And so, when I slow down or I'm in yoga or I'm sleeping and dreaming, if I pay attention to those, to that kind of influence, I feel very connected to, you know, um, to like my familial path or my circle is a kind of what, and as like hokey pokey, like, trust me, it's like very hokey pokey in my head oftentimes.
Yeah.
It's very much there. And that to me, that's God. God is just love. And if I'm living and doing things that I enjoy, I'm exuding more love and then allowing people to kind of connect with me on whether like energetically or spoken or whatever. Yeah, that's divine to me.
So good. So, so good. Oh, this has been such a fun conversation. So just in closing, is there any like final point or top takeaway that you would love to add about living joyfully?
No, just giving, for any listener, it's giving yourself permission to be happy is sometimes I just think the most challenging thing for people of, you deserve to be happy. Like, I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be as happy as I possibly can. And I'm going to explore every way possible to make that happen. Whether it's with friends or work or, what I do outside or relationships. I've been single a while and, it's being okay with being alone until I find someone that really moves me. And that's, again, it's giving someone permission to be honest, to be open, to do things they really love. It's really important.
I love it so much. Well, thank you so much, Sabrina, for being on the show. It has been such a joy to have you on, and I'm so excited about all of you listening, and I hope that you're feeling inspired and excited to even just take a little bit of action of what's a little bit more joy you could bring in, or even feeling inspired as Sabrina's talking about, exploring more and facing those challenges as, hey, there's going to be a new level of comfort and this is an adventure. This can be fun. There's just been so many good nuggets. So I hope that you're leaving feeling really inspired and excited to really take action to create more of a joyful life for yourself. You are worth it. I loved Sabrina bringing that up. You do deserve to be happy. So make that choice today. And we are just sending so much love to you. Thank you for listening. Thanks again, Sabrina, for being on. And we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.